Okay, it looks like everyone is there. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining, all of you. Really, really appreciate it. I know this came through as a last minute thing. We're busy sort of scheduling a lot of our webinars like 2, even 3 weeks in advance. So on the website, you'll be able to register for all of those in the future, either the paid ones or the free ones like this. So, like I mentioned, I wanted to chat about 3 ways to maximize your Safari experience. And for me personally, I believe, I see Barbara's also just coming. Hi, Barbara. For me personally, I believe a Safari experience has to start from the minute that you inquire about the Safari, about, once you inquire the booking process and how that all gets handled. I think it shouldn't be just being on the trip. The Safari experience should be, from the minute that you inquire. And I've listed 3 things which I think is vitally important, both from our sides to manage, but also from a guest point of view. When you're going on a particular Safari. So, like I mentioned, I wanted to put a few slides and things together, but I thought, you know what, I want to get this interactive, and that's why I'd love to get questions from you guys. Maybe you had a bad experience at some point, or maybe you found something that really worked for you, and that's what I wanted to sort of discuss in this webinar. Now, the 3 things I highlighted that I think maximizes a Safari experience. The first thing for me is managing expectations. Now, this is probably like one of the hardest things to do, right? So you book a Safari because you've seen amazing photos or amazing videos of that particular trip. So let's take, for example, like something like the Serengeti or the gorillas, for example. We're not going to post a photo of a striped mouse and try and sell the Safari to you, right? Because let's be honest, you're not going to travel to go and see a striped mouse and pay that amount of money to go there. So the images that we post and share with you is the best that we witness on a particular Safari. It's by no means sort of fake or anything. It is just, after every trip, we'll do like a trip report, usually from photos, even videos of a particular trip. But at the end of the day, you're still dealing with wildlife. Each and every experience is different. And I think even for us as well, not just for you guys as the guests, but for us, it's also very difficult we often wonder, how can we match that particular Safari? How can we match the year we had previously? I'm talking about Serengeti, for example. And that is a very difficult thing. And I think even like social media also makes it even harder nowadays, that you can put in a tag of Mara Triangle or the Serengeti and Dutu or Namiri Plains, and you're going to see some incredible images. So naturally, when you book that particular trip, you're going to want to see all of those things. But you also have to understand that a lot of that is taken, I'm talking social media now, a lot of that could have been taken a month ago, it could have been taken yesterday, it could have been taken 2 years ago. So yes, there is potential for that particular place, and that's why we decide to go there, and why we market it, and why we encourage you guys to come with us to that particular destination, is because of that potential. And I think a lot of the times on Safari, we forget about that element of what can happen. We're so focused on, we want to get out on the morning game drive, we want to get that particular sighting or the particular photographic experience, that we often forget to take up the smaller things, to enjoy the sunrise and the sort of that nice cup of coffee around the fire, and all these things that make part of a Safari experience, that we're so focused on everything being photographic. And look, I'll be the first to admit I'm guilty of it 100%. Every time I go to the Serengeti, I know what it can offer, or even to the Masai Mara, I know what it can offer. I know what the amazing game viewing it can give, that you almost want it for every single client all the time. And reality is that you just can't do it. See, there's a question that's popped up. Thank you. I'll get back to that now. And again, the Masai Mara is a perfect example for that. As you guys might know, we run the peak and off-peak seasons. And during the peak season for the migration, where people are traveling there mainly to see the river crossings, like with the wildebeest and zebras. So we run like a 6-night itinerary where you stay in the Mara camp, 6 nights, 7 days. And the reason we do that is to maximize your chances of seeing a river crossing. We don't take people in for 1 or 2 nights purely because we don't want you to leave disappointed. It doesn't mean, it by no means means that you guarantee to see it. I think, you know, in the past, how long have we been running the migration safari? It's probably about 7 years. There's probably been maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks max where people haven't seen river crossings. And it's because we put the odds in our favor. So our camp is close to the crossing point, and the fact that you're staying there for 6 nights maximizes your chances of seeing that. But you also have to manage your own expectations. And I really do think if you go in with the mindset of course, you'd love to see a river crossing, but there is so much more that the Mara has to offer. And I think once you open yourself up to those experiences, like, for example, you know, spending time with the Maasai guys around the fire, watching the sunrise, as I mentioned, enjoying the breakfast in the middle of nowhere, the vast open plains, I think you really sort of go home with so much more than just the images. I think talking from a Southern Africa point of view as well, you know, where you're able to get out of the vehicle a lot more and go on foot, you know, you open yourself up to a whole nother world. And I think, you know, for us as tour leaders and guys that, you know, lead people onto these safaris, I think a big part of us are also looking into like creating different experiences, not necessarily all photographic, but just sort of getting back to nature, you know, walking safaris, experiencing the small things that often you end up missing out on a lot of these photographic safaris because you're so focused on getting the images. I think the tracks and signs of the animals, and also, you know, just getting back down to earth with like the insects and the butterflies and those things. Once you open yourself up to that world, it really becomes fascinating. And I think it's for me personally, it's something that I've sort of tried to enforce, not enforce, that's probably like the wrong word, but almost paint a worst case scenario to people, undersell and over deliver. That's something that I truly believe in. But, you know, like the safaris, like I said, the safaris that we put out there, you can see the photographic evidence. There is a huge amount of potential on all the safaris that we run, but you're dealing with nature, and no single safari can ever be the same. And I think it also comes down to a question I think we asked, it must have been like last year sometime. And I want to ask you guys this question. Would you travel to a destination for one individual animal? I'd like to hear your answers on that. Like I said, I'd like to get some engagement going. Would you guys travel to one destination to view or photograph one particular animal? Natalie says no. I'm glad to hear that. Arden also says no. And I'm glad to hear that, you know, because the Barbara says the baboons in Ethiopia, the pangolins, etc. Okay, so if I say to you, I mean, like rare instances like that, if I say to you, we're going to Tswalu, which Barbara, you've been, and I can guarantee you we're going to see a pangolin, then you'll probably travel. But the way I'm going with this is like a lot of the time people will go to a certain area. So let's say the Masai Mara, for example, right? Then they've got one thing they want to photograph, and that's scar. That becomes very difficult, because what happens if the day that you fly there, scar gets killed by another pride of lions? So I think, and like a lot of times, leopard and Sabi sands, for example, people watch a lot of these live safaris now, and they get to know individual leopards, and they want to go travel to the Sabi sands, spend a bucket load of money to like view or photograph one specific leopard, it's still a leopard. It really is. I'll tell you guys a funny story. There was, sorry, I'm sort of going off the topic a little bit, but I want to tell you this story. There's, at Mombo in Botswana, there's a very famous leopard. I don't even know if she's still alive, actually, Lachadima, and they did an amazing documentary. If you guys want to check it out on, I'm sure it must be on YouTube. It's called Eye of the Leopard, Lachadima. Amazing documentary and amazing leopard. But everyone that went to Mombo wanted to see Lachadima, up to a point where the guides would drive, and I mean, leopard, there's no shortage of that in Mombo. But every leopard, the first leopard they'd see, they'd tell the people it's Lachadima, just so that that stress would go away. And I think, I think we almost need to get away from that and just sort of, it's another animal. Yes, something like Scar is absolutely amazing. He's incredible line, not taking that away. But I don't think your whole safari should delve around that one particular animal. Charlotte says, if going on safari was a regular thing, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, sure. If you go, I mean, if you can go to the Masai Mara, if you live on the edge of the Masai Mara and you can go every weekend, 100%, then you can sort of put one trip aside to a particular animal. I get that. But if you go on one safari a year, or for some people, it's even one safari in their lifetime, I think there's so much more. And it's also our responsibility to manage that and create that sort of overall experience, to put everything together, because it shouldn't be just about one particular element, everything else. And it shouldn't even be just the wildlife side of things. It should be the whole experience, the sitting around the fire, the stories, the friendships that you make. That is, I think that is vitally important. Then moving on to the second thing, and I think this is also another crucial part of enhancing your photograph or your safari experience, is patience. Now, again, patience shouldn't just be a safari thing. I think, from the minute that you get through the airports, whether you're flying into Nairobi or into Johannesburg maybe not as much. This is Africa Light, as we like to call it. If you go further up, like North Africa, things become a bit slower, right? So, and you'll notice it from the minute that you land at the airports, things become slower. And there's also that language barrier. The language is often a second or even a third language in a lot of these African countries. And everything happens slower, and you need to go with that. We have a classic saying that says TIA, this is Africa. Right, so in airports, yes, it can be very frustrating. You might have bags and things getting lost. There might be only one person in passport control when there's like 4 or 5 queues. But by upsetting yourself and getting worked up about it, you're not only spoiling it for yourself, but you're also just making the situation worse. If in Africa, there's a classic sort of way of doing things that, once you try and speed it up or get aggressive, then things will just get slower. I think that's something that I learned with managing lodges in Zambia and Botswana, is you need to, there's certain ways of getting your message across. And I think if you go in hard, you're gonna sort of get that sort of tension, and you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. So patience, I think, is vitally important. Go with the flow. Get into that mindset of, this is Africa, go with the flow. And I think that's also where it becomes vital, when you travel with one of us. I know I can handle African or African situation or African airports anywhere in Africa. I'm very comfortable with going through. I've done a lot of road trips through Zambia and Zimbabwe, where they pull you over for the silliest of reasons to try and get a bribe. But if you show respect to them, and it's often even just, making the effort of asking, how do you say hello in your language? How do you say, how are you? How do you say, I'd like a cold gin and tonic? Things like that. Just bit of effort on your side really, really goes a long way. But I think if you're traveling in Africa for the first time, then I think it really comes in handy to travel with like one of us that have handled situations through the airports. And I must say, like 98% of the time, it will go through without any issues. The people in Africa are actually very friendly. And then I think from the wildlife point of view, obviously that goes without saying. I think patience in wildlife is like massive. And again, we see this a lot on safari, right? So especially when you go to East Africa, you often have these vehicles that come in for a day or two. And again, that's where managing your expectations comes in very handy, or very, very crucial. That make sure when you book a particular destination, you don't just book 1 night, 2 nights here and there and hop around. You actually spend some time in that area, and that allows you then to be patient. I mean, I love traveling East Africa, and for me, like in the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, I cannot do a 3-hour game drive. I really can't. For me, 6 hours is absolute minimum, and more often than not, it'll be full days, especially in the Serengeti. And the reason for that being is just having the patience to stick with it, with an animal, and that's when you're going to see the behavior and the interaction. And I think also the photographic goals that you have in mind. That's also another thing that, you know, from an expectation point of view, explain that to your company that you're traveling with. You know, these are your expectations. You would like to see a leopard up a tree, or a lion coming down a tree, or whatever it may be, because that can go hand in hand with your patience. So if you have that particular scenario in front of you, you can then wait it out, and more often than not, it might unfold in front of you. Not always, again, it's nature, but a lot of the time, if you have patience, I firmly believe with patience, nature will reward you. I see there's a question that's come through. I'll answer that now. Thank you very much. So yeah, patience is absolutely key when it comes to wildlife and photography. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, you guys must have seen a lot of these documentaries out there, and I think there was one I watched the other day. I think it was one of the Planet Earths, but they afterwards they did like a few episodes just to show how long they waited for those for that footage. And it's, I mean, often now you're talking about weeks and months every day, where the guys are out there the whole day to get this amazing footage. And you know, here you are then going on like a 2-night safari trying to like recreate that. Not going to happen. So patience is really, really key, and I'm sure all of you guys have a lot of patience, especially if you're in the wildlife photography business. I must say, like most of the people that we deal with are happy to wait in a particular sighting. And I mean, we've waited. I just waited now in the Serengeti, the last trip I hosted in February and March. We found leopard cubs in the morning. 2 of them, mom wasn't there, she went out hunting. And we got them at about 8 o'clock that morning, 8 o'clock, 8:30. And luckily we saw them come out so that we knew they were there. And then we decided to wait there. We had breakfast and lunch with us. And I think they only came out about 4 o'clock that afternoon, 4:30. So that was 8 hours of waiting. And it was 100% worth it, because I firmly believe as well that those images then become so much more valuable to you. It's a lot, it means a lot more, the memories of sitting in the vehicle, having your lunch and your breakfast in the vehicle, the random conversations you get up to. I think that all sort of comes back to you when you look at a particular image. Instead of coming around the corner, there's a leopard, you photograph it and you move on. There's not much sort of emotional attachment or sentiment to it if that had to happen. Then I think the third thing for me that I think is vitally important is trusting your guide. Now, whether it be traveling with one of us or another photographic guide, or even with your local guide that you're with, I think it's vitally important to put your trust in them. And I like to often compare it to, you know, like your golf coach or your personal trainer. if a personal trainer says to you, here's your meal plan, these are the exercises that you want to, or that you have to do if you want to gain muscle or lose weight, whatever it might be, you're not going to say, you know what, no, I think rather I should have a pizza with a chocolate mousse because that's going to be I'm going to achieve my best results. Same thing with a golf coach. And we are 100% the same. You know, we want to try and get the best experiences out there for you. And so hopefully your local guide would hopefully do the same thing. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have, if you've had bad experiences with the local guide, then let me know. It does happen, you know. And I think we've learned this as well, that I think in Southern Africa the guides are very good. If you talk about South Africa, in like most parts of it, Zambia's got pretty good guides. Zimbabwe's got very good guides. But if you do go to East Africa, and we get a lot of people speaking to us about, you know, wanting to do budget safaris, you got to be so careful, because a lot of them are not even guides. They like basically taxi drivers who then pick people up in Nairobi. They drive through, spend a few days in the Mara, drive off to Amboseli, spend a few nights there, and then drive back. I think then, I mean, you're going to have a bit of an issue with a guide who doesn't really know about wildlife, doesn't know what experiences you want to get. But I'm talking about qualified guides. I think it's vital that you put your trust in them. And like I said, we want to get the best results for you from a photographic and experience point of view. And we also want to get you in the best positions, you know. So I'm happy I'll put money on it that, you know, out of 10 scenarios, I think probably about maybe 6, 7, even 8 times out of 10, we'll be able to correctly predict the animal movement for you. It's impossible to get it right all the time, and animals can make you look like an absolute fool. But like I said, the majority of the time, I think we will be able to get it right, purely because we've got that guiding background. And it's a classic example of the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? So we've all learned from previous experiences, you know, being in the wrong position, missing an image, or you know, anticipating something to go this way and it happens the other way. But over time now, I think we've really been able to get it right more times than not. And I think like all three of these things, for me personally, I feel it comes in hand. So from a booking point of view, so any of you, I know Barbara and Maria, and I know you guys have traveled with us, chat to the guides, you know, saying this is where you want to go to, this is the experience that you want to get, and paint us a picture of what safari you want to go on. And you guys are welcome to drop me a message in the chat as well. What experiences, what you know, what do you want to get out of a safari? Because I think if you go like on safari just for the sake of the safari, I think there's a lot of it that that might leave you to want more, if that makes sense. Which is also not a bad thing, because then you can come back, right? But I think a lot of the times it was people I've spoken to over the last week, you know, they've gone on safari with either by themselves or with a company that's not necessarily photographic in tune, and got back home and they returned with this sort of they felt that there was an element missing. They couldn't exactly point out what it is. Some people it was exactly the patience thing. Sorry, let me see the question that popped up here. Is patience, does that, sorry, I'm just trying to, do you have to have patience wildlife photography, and are some destinations more inclined or more in tune for patience? Yeah, I think if I understand the question correctly, it's 100%. I think for me personally, like I mentioned, East Africa, I think lends itself to doing like more full days, purely because you're traveling such big distances. And also generally the weather in East Africa is pretty pretty comfortable all year round. I think if you had to go to some place like South Luangwa or Monopools in October, you're probably not going to spend the whole day out there, right? It gets very, very hot by like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So, and also, you know, by then most of the wildlife is hidden away and sort of sleeping. So I do think if you're planning on doing Southern Africa or like South Africa in particular, I think winter is probably a better time to do full days out in the field, and also then to have, I mean, you can have a lot more patience then as well. Whereas, you know, in the summer months, I feel in South Africa in particular, yeah, like it does get hot, and often then, you know, spending a whole day with a pride of lions, very little chance that they actually going to get up when it's that hot. So definitely East Africa all year round, I would say. But Southern Africa, if you want to do full days out, I would say definitely more towards the winter months. How do you cope with FOMO when it comes to wildlife photography? So FOMO, the fear of missing out, and this is no jokes. This is real. I think one thing that you have to sort of understand, and again, it comes down, I think, to expectations and also trusting your guide. You cannot be everywhere on a particular safari, right? So if you go to a lodge where they have more like multiple vehicles going out, you have to prepare yourself that there is a chance that you might miss out on something, right? The guys are all in radio contact, and I think often and we all make this mistake sort of somewhere down the line from a guiding point of view. You might be sitting with a pride of lions, and then you hear a call of a leopard in a tree, and immediately you leave everything that you have and you race to the next site, and you get there and the leopard is sleeping and it's right on top of the tree. You can just make out a tail or an ear or something like that. So when we go out on safari, if we're sitting with a lion, for example, and that call comes in of leopards or wild dogs, what we will ask the guide is to get us as much information as possible, right? Again, putting the odds in our favor. What is the leopard doing? What is the visual? You know, is it up in a tree? Is it like a dense tree, or is it like paint us a little picture here, what we sort of getting ourselves into? Because it's important to understand what you have, like with that lioness you're sitting, you've got a guaranteed sighting. Now you leave that guaranteed sighting and you go to a leopard, for example. It might be a 10, 15, 20-minute drive. In that time, that leopard could have gone down the tree or moved somewhere else, and it's gone. And then now you have nothing to photograph. So you have to put the odds in your favor, and that's why we'll try and get as much information as possible. So if it's moving, like, what does the area look like? Is it an open area? Is it like thick? Because if it's a thick area, there's a good chance it's going to disappear. Is it hunting? Has it got to kill? All these things will sort of paint a picture for us to then decide, you know, what it is that we're going to go and do. If we're going to respond to that sighting, or we're going to stay put with what we have. Now, like I said, we've all made the mistake. And either way, you know, go to the leopard. Leopard does nothing. And the lion that you were sitting with gets up and hunts a buffalo. I think you have to understand that you can't be everywhere on safari. And I think, you know, like, we'll try and sort of make those calculated decisions as best we possibly can. But you don't always get it right, guys. It's a difficult thing. But I think that's one of the most exciting things about a safari, you know, is anything can happen. Anything can happen. So I think that those are the three elements. I look forward to hearing any questions or any comments that you guys might have, whether it be from could have been a bad experience that you had, or a good experience. Charlotte, where's the line between being excited and having your expectations too high? Charlotte, that's a fantastic question, and I think being excited is fantastic on safari, but I think you have to be excited for the overall experience. I think if you let's use the Masai Mara, for example. I think if you're excited to go to the Masai Mara and you book the Masai Mara just to go and see Scar, then I think you're leaving such a big gap to be disappointed. And I mean, we don't want you to be disappointed. You don't want to be disappointed. I think if you're excited to go to the Masai Mara with the mindset of happy to be there and whatever comes, comes, I think you're in for a life-changing experience. And I think I said this on the previous webinar. I still haven't seen as many people leave crying than what I have in the Masai Mara. And a lot of that is because a lot of it is not because of the wildlife. I mean, you can ask a lot of people who've been on multiple safaris with us to the Masai Mara. A lot of our people that return every single year will be honest in saying, we're not returning for you or for the wildlife. They return for our staff. Dixon, Tenke, Mary, all of the guys, they are truly phenomenal. And I think that's the big difference. If you're happy to, and I think it goes for any destinations. If you're happy to go to South Luangwa, just to be there, to take everything, to experience the whole thing as it comes, I think you're going to be in for a life-changing experience. I really, really do. Great question, Charlotte. Really good one. Here's another question that I saw here. How can you be disappointed in a safari? Yeah, I mean, look, it can happen. Again, look, I think it all comes down to research. You know, like 100%, you can be disappointed. I'm trying to put this in the most politically correct way possible, but I think if you do your research properly, and I think nowadays as well with Zoom that's taken off so much, I don't think I've had as many Zoom meetings ever than with like Skype and all those things. So I think if you plan to book a safari, you know, have a look at the website of the companies, and even the guide that you travel with. You know, we're very much aware that even with our team, that people enjoy traveling with certain people, and that's 100% fine, because you do just connect with certain people more than others. But I would say check the website, and then make sure you even get a Zoom call. My feeling is, if the person is not prepared to connect with you via FaceTime or WhatsApp call or Skype or Zoom, whatever it may be, don't go there. Don't travel there, because then there's something hidden in there. I hope that's helped a little bit. I think it's a fun one. Like I said, I wanted to put photos out there, but I enjoy this engagement. I enjoy chatting to you guys and just seeing what questions you have, maybe experiences, maybe things that you're worried about from a traveling point of view. I must say, I am very, very excited. We just today we've got dates and things in for 2022 safaris, which I'm very excited about. A lot of our 2020 trips this year obviously had to be postponed to next year, which has made availability for 2021 a bit of an issue, but a lot of cool things coming up for 2022. So stay tuned. It will be on the website pretty soon. And man, I can't wait. Imagine how sweet that gin and tonic is going to taste around the fire when we can travel again. So I'll leave this for about a minute or so to see if there's any more questions. Otherwise, I'll end this off here. A short one, but I hope that's helped a little bit, and just giving you guys a bit of food for thought. You know, I think we're all starting to. There seems to be a lot of positive news coming out. People starting to think about traveling a lot more. So I think if you take these three things into consideration with your next safari and planning, I think it will definitely maximize and enhance your safari experience. And like I said, it's not just on the safari itself. It starts off from the minute that you inquire and that you book. All of these things will play a part. Charlotte, what do you do if you get somewhere and it's not what you expected? For example, my family went to a place and all we could see was mupani trees. Yeah, Charlotte, I think, again, I think that it comes down to, I think just with a lot of research, and I think you need to sort of chat to the company and just do your research thoroughly. I think we are very happy with a lot of the safaris. We used to do like a monopools adventure trail, right? And we'll be very honest to say to people, listen, it's not a big game experience. And Barbara, you'll know, you did Chitaki with me as well a couple of years ago. It's not about like the wildlife and the photography. It's about the experience. It's about being in a place where there's no roads. You're doing walking. So I think you need to, a lot of research needs to go into it. And I think that also you need to choose very carefully who you travel with. And I mean, we see it a lot of the times. People, people have been on 1 or 2 safaris and now they're running safari companies. I'm not slaying anyone, but I'm just saying, do your research with who you travel with and the experience, how long they've been doing it, and their expertise on those certain areas. I think that's vitally important. The last thing, and there's nothing that irritates me more than hearing people sort of spending a lot of money, going places, and then it's not what they expected, or either the guide let them down, or the nightmare experience. I think people deserve more than that. So yeah, Charlotte, I'm sorry that you guys had to experience that, but my only advice would be is to do thorough research. Like I said, get in touch with the guys, FaceTime them, and get as much information as you possibly can. Look, it can happen that areas are quiet, and I think, but also like Charlotte, I'm sure when you guys traveled, you didn't just go for like 2 or 3 nights, right? So you have to put the odds in your favor, and I think I would much rather choose 2 areas and spend 5 nights at each than seeing more areas and doing 2 nights at each of those. I think the more time you get to spend in a particular area, the more you get to understand it. You get to see a pattern in animal movement, and you also sort of I think appreciate the area so much more. If you're spending like 2 nights here and there, just racing around, and you don't really get a true feel or appreciation for the place. So I hope that helps, Charlotte. Thanks, Barbara. Great seeing you as well. We'll hopefully. I'm not sure if you're in Cape Town, or if you're in Europe or America, wherever you are. But I hope all is going well for you. I know you're in the same boat as us from a traveling point of view. But you know what, guys, I'm 100% positive this is all going to get better, and soon we'll be back at it. Can't wait. So I think that's pretty much all the questions, guys. Thank you so much for sort of listening to me rambling about, and for all the questions and engagement. Really appreciate it. There'll be more webinars coming out. You guys can actually have a look on our website. We've just released them today. Some really cool ones. I think some very interesting interactive ones. So go check them out. And there's also the premium webinars also coming up in the next few weeks. So excited to share that with you guys. And once again, your engagement and your feedback, it really is amazing. And it's what keeps us going. And yeah, you guys absolutely rock. But on my next webinar is, I have to think now, on Monday. Doing one on Monday and Tuesday, actually. So I look forward to seeing you there. But until then, stay safe, stay positive, and keep a good sense of humor. Very important. Cheers, guys. Till next time. Bye-bye.